Hello, everybody. I guess we're back.
Are we?
I guess.
Is it safe?
I guess it is. Hey, this is the MCU Podcast. We've been gone for like, what, 7 months?
I don't think we're ever truly gone as long as one person remembers us in their hearts.
Or one of us keeps constantly tweeting about Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of share the load on that, though, really, don't we?
Well, to be fair, I believe we stopped second or third, the third week that S.H.I.E.L.D. was back.
I knew we did some S.H.I.E.L.D. because every time I see Mac, my first thought is, I still don't know who Mac is. And I know I've mentioned that on the podcast.
Yeah, I remember that we did the premiere.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did the second episode because I remember saying that it would have been really good if those two were together as a two-parter. It would have made the first episode a lot better because it felt like it was very attached.
Yeah.
To the first episode. I remember saying that very specifically. Other than that, I mean, it's been kind of the wrong word is calm because it has not been calm at all.
No, but for the most part, we finished. Well, actually, no. Did we ever release the episode where we talked about the El Capitan announcement where they showed off Phase 3?
Yes.
Okay, so we got that out of the way. And then after that, the only real big announcement that came out of it was we found out about the Sony giving the rights, not the rights to Spider-Man back, but basically saying, hey, you guys can take over.
You guys fucked up enough. We're taking over.
And they're like, we'll still get some money, right? And they're like, yes, you'll get your money.
God fucking damn it, Sony. You and your money.
Like, yay! So Spider-Man's back in the MCU, and he'll have his own movie, which pushed everything from Thor Ragnarok back one movie date.
Yeah, it was, there was some adjustments going on there because I know we also talked about Ms. Marvel and whatnot, and how we talked about that whole thing. At least I think we did. If we didn't, then it's so far a moot point, it doesn't even matter at this point. Because I believe that actually happened before S.H.I.E.L.D. came back.
Yeah, it was like right around that time.
Yeah, because it was part of Disney and Marvel's master plan of promoting, where they did that to kind of get Marvel back into people's minds because there wasn't anything out for a little while, and that's how they do that now, is that when people start forgetting this shit's out, they do that. Although, I say that, and what the fuck has been going on with the last couple of months where they're just like, here's everything?
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting news almost on a regular basis about something else that Marvel's planning to do, or Disney's announcing something about Marvel, or we find out about some new Marvel partnership. Just minutes before we started recording this, I found the tweet that mentioned that Marvel's now going to be teaming up with Telltale to release a Telltale game.
Oh, I didn't catch that because I was fucking doing other things. So, yeah. Well, I got something else to consume that, Jesus, tap dancing Christ, that my girlfriend will ignore and probably hate me about.
She's just like, shut up about your comic books.
Okay, no. She loves the Transformers comics. We both love them. I love the IDW run of More Than Meets the Eye and Robots in Disguise, which has just been rebranded to Transformers. But I think that we both have discussed that some of our significant others hates the fact of how much we're into the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get that. I get that so much. Where I'm just like, hey, honey, I want to talk about Daredevil. Eyes glaze over.
She's just like, it's an hour and a half of some dude beating another dude up. You're like, yeah, but it was really... Oh.
But he looks sad about it.
There's red everywhere.
And he's got a balloon.
Yeah, no, that's what this podcast is like, our bar, you know, where you go after work to get away from it all and you just vent, except instead of drinking our sorrows away, we relish on new Marvel properties to get excited about. So, yeah, if you haven't heard the news, Marvel's teaming up with Telltale to release a project sometime in 2017. That's the date they have on it. No word yet if it's going to be tied to the MCU. It just says, you know, we're teaming up with Marvel Entertainment, but it seems likely considering Marvel recently announced they were looking into other avenues to expand the MCU.
And to be fair, it's not the first time Telltale has made something that's canon in a universe. The Wolf Among Us is canonical with the Fables comics, and I believe that they've said that the Game of Thrones game is canonical.
I think that is supposed to be at least some level of canon.
I believe it actually is canon because the voice actors are joining, the actual actors are in the game, and it takes place between seasons 2 and 3 of a house that's never been seen before.
Yeah, they were like briefly thrown away, mentioned in one of the books at one point. So it's really, but I guess it's sort of setting up like, yeah, this house can do whatever it wants. It's not really going to matter.
Exactly. They were able to have some leeway, and they could explain some things that happen in the background. So it's not the first time Telltale has dealt with something that is canonical in its own universe. The Borderlands game is also canonical as well, but that's Borderlands and story. I guess maybe Minecraft story mode is canonical. I don't know. It's not out yet.
Well, he also there's also just so many properties too that Marvel hasn't done anything with, that they have the rights to, but they haven't done anything with, that would kind of fit a Telltale game too. Mm-hmm. Like you think like something like Cloak and Dagger. Like, could they make a show out of this? They probably could. Could they make a game out of it, like a Telltale game? I think that might fit maybe a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a good place for them to do whatever the hell they want. If they kind of take the structure from what I believe the structure of Game of Thrones is, that each person is a main character in each episode. So it could very easily be some characters' backstories or something. Like, it could very easily be like, here's the Spider-Man episode, and they just make one episode about something that he did, and it could just be done like that, and who the hell knows what they're going to do, because we don't know what the hell they're going to do. It's not coming out for another 2 fucking years.
Yeah, we've got, like, Doctor Strange to get through before this even comes out, but...
Dear God.
Hearing about it is extremely awesome.
It's really nice to hear that Telltale is doing something like that. I mean, I have not played this year's games at all, which is Tales from the Borderlands and Game of Thrones, just because I got way too many games to play as is.
I've gotten through Game of Thrones. I still haven't done the newest part, but they're all very good. I still have to do Walking Dead Season 2, but...
I haven't done Walking Dead Season 2 either. I have to replay The Walking Dead Season 1.
Oh, God, how can you do that?
It's rough as shit, man.
Oh, man.
That's the problem when you jump consoles.
I would just let it go. I'd just be like, I'm going to assume everything good happens to Clementine in the future.
I'm just not even going to play it. It's fine.
As happens in the Walking Dead universe, there's a happy ending for this sympathetic character.
Mm-hmm. For the character that is happy and somehow still fairly well adjusted to being in the zombie apocalypse, even though everyone they know is dead, they're going to have a happy ending.
Yeah, it'll just work out for them.
Always. But no, I like Telltale, and it will probably be very interesting. And also, for the record, everyone who's listening to this, I thought I needed to mention this. You and I, we haven't had any voice talk just because we've both been busy.
Yes.
And I think we may have talked once since the end of the podcast.
Yes, there was that awesome cybering session we had.
Yes, we did. The awesome wizarding section. I love that filter, by the way, where it changed every version of cyber to wizard.
What was that in?
It's a plugin for like Chrome, where it will take every time the word cyber is said and turn it into wizard.
Oh,
so it'll be like the United States Wizarding Division. It's amazing.
It'd be pretty sweet.
It is. So it's one of those recommended things. Like there's one that changes SJW to skeletons.
Oh man, that would make some tweets so much better.
I know it does. It's amazing. But yes, so we haven't really talked, and we talked for 8 minutes, and then we started the podcast. That's just how we do.
Yeah. I feel like we just jump right back on where we left off, because that's what bros do.
Exactly. So aren't you looking forward to the release of Daredevil?
Yes. If you were raising that to me 3 months ago. Because now I've seen it all. Okay. We're just picking up literally from where our last conversation ended.
I am looking forward to this show called Daredevil. I wonder who's going to be Kingpin.
Yeah, well, that seems like a great thing. Hey, how about that Avengers Age of Ultron coming out in 4 to 6 months?
Man, I hope that they make a new trailer that makes Ant-Man not look lame.
Oh man, there has been a lot recently. I mean, we're in the midst of this build up to Age of Ultron. We're recording this a week from when I'm going to be seeing it, a week from release. I imagine you're seeing it opening night too.
Yeah, a week probably to the moment that I'm going to be sitting near a theater getting probably a little bit inebriated.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go into it.
I'm seeing it with like a group of like 8 people.
Oh man, yeah, that's too much of a social situation for me to go in sober. I might even need something heavier.
And it's an IMAX, and it's opening night, so there's going to be a huge fucking crowd. Like I've told the stories many times about how the last Avengers movie went, and I'm expecting nothing else of something this big, even though the reviews aren't glowing.
I have been trying to actually stay away from reviews because I was a bad MCU fan, and I stayed way too into every piece of news that came out. I kept watching all the TV spots, all the trailers over and over again, all the discussion on it, and it's led me to having things about the movie not necessarily completely spoiled, but just aspects of it. I'm like, oh, well, I know not to expect that now, or I know not to think about this now just because I've been reading so much on it. So I'm trying to stay away from reviews just so I'm going in with as much of a clear mind to what, or unknown mind to what's going to happen as I can.
Yeah. Pretty much what I'm seeing is like right now, as we're speaking, as a 79 on Rotten. And from really what I've heard is that it really feels kind of what people are saying currently is that it feels a little empty and it's a very like it's setting up a lot of stuff.
Which is a shame, definitely, if that's the case. But I suppose it's not the worst thing in the world if they're like, look, there's big movies coming out that are going to be... Like, I guess if they're saying, hey, this is a movie that sets up a lot, as long as that's not the same case when Civil War comes out next year.
Civil War looks to be like the big payoff.
It almost looks like it's the Avengers movie, based off of the cast we know who's going to be in it.
Pretty much.
I mean, it's like you just take out Hulk and Thor and you put everyone else in at this point.
Pretty much. Everyone else is in there except for those two. And the problem that I'm hearing is that while this one, a lot of the bits and pieces of it are good, it's just the fact that it feels a little hollow when all is said and done. And you know what, that happens sometimes with these kind of sequels. I mean, it doesn't make it a bad movie. As long as it's fun, I'm pretty in. And we're also talking about 58 reviews, and 12 of them are negative. So
yeah. And I mean, to be honest, you know, you could almost say a little bit of that was true with the original Avengers as well. You know, that wasn't a movie with a whole lot of purpose to it. It was just so awesome to see all of them together, and we're getting that same thing but bigger here. So that, if that's what you're going in for.
Here's the thing, though. What I would say is that this is like, from what I'm seeing of it, this movie feels almost like either Iron Man 2 or Captain America: The First Avenger. Like it's a movie on its own, but it's setting up like everything that's going to happen next. Whereas the next true Avengers is Civil War, like the first one was, which was a culmination of all the buildup.
Yeah.
So like that's the problem that I'm seeing, is like that's something that a lot of people want to see in a movie, is the build up to the finale. Like this is like the second act.
Yeah.
And a little bit into the third is what this kind of looks like to me.
Well, hopefully it's still enjoyable. I'm very optimistic of it. I mean, I've seen like enough trailers to be like, oh, holy shit, they all jump in from the left side of the screen. It's so nerdy. It's awesome.
Like, oh my God.
It's so ridiculous, but I'm blowing my mind over it.
Yeah. Also, I do have to say that since we're now into this, that I'm so glad that we didn't do this during the build-up, because holy shit, it would have been like every week would have been like, so a new clip came out.
Yeah, I mean, there were points where there'd be a new TV spot once every day or so. Every couple of days, a new TV spot would come out, and it would have just enough new information that you're like, oh, it's almost like its own separate piece. But man, if you watched all of them, and I watched a good portion of them, I felt like I've seen a good chunk of the movie at this point already.
You've probably seen about a third of the movie.
Yeah, I feel like I have at this point.
Yeah, and the thing is like looking back on it, is like that our exact treatment of Avengers would have been like how we treated Guardians. Mm-hmm. And and there's double the amount of content that Guardians has out there on this thing. And while we all loved Guardians to fucking death, Guardians is, now that time has settled and my feelings are a little more cohesive when it comes to this whole series, Guardians is by far my favorite at this point now.
Of the whole MCU?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hey, I completely agree. It's the only movie I've seen multiple times in theaters.
And it's like, nothing against the Avengers, it's just Guardians, I think, is just a tighter film.
It was a very tight film. I think I still hold the fondest regard for Winter Soldier, but Guardians is right up there. It was excellent.
I just think that it's taste when it comes to genres. Like, personally, I love science fiction. I love space opera. So Guardians just takes it above that, but I also do love a good thriller. My only problem is that time has kept the action scenes of Winter Soldier very high, but some of the plot a little lower.
That's true, and it's fair enough too. But I think what we're kind of seeing, and I think that's the best Marvel movies we're getting, are the ones that are inventing themselves outside of just being a superhero movie.
Exactly.
So maybe that's part of the problem with Avengers as well, is it really doesn't have a genre to fit into beyond being a superhero movie.
It's being a tentpole is really what it's being, and that's sad in its own way. But you know, sometimes you need this big action movie just to be an action movie for once.
And it's probably going to make a literal crap ton of money, so help us make those, Ant-Mans and Doctor Stranges, which take on whole new genres.
And let's be honest. Okay, let's talk about Ant-Man for a second.
Okay.
Because I feel really bad for Ant-Man.
It's in an awkward position on the calendar.
It's in a very awkward position, and there's been no advertising.
Yeah, its entire basis is going to be overshadowed by the fact that Avengers comes out, and I feel like that's Marvel's marketing. They're like, Avengers will be the marketing for Ant-Man more so, because by the time Ant-Man's coming out, Avengers is going to be just winding down in theaters.
It's either going to, depending on how big Avengers is, because the first Avengers was in theaters for a long time, after all was said and done. And depending on how much leg the Avengers has, because I can't really think of too much strong competition coming out after it. I think the next big piece of competition is Jurassic World.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think there's anything really huge coming out around that time.
No, there's not. And it's mainly because of the fact that Avengers 2 is coming out. So everyone's just like, oh, hell no.
Yeah, F that. I'm gonna be over here with fucking Home, or whatever that god-awful looking movie from DreamWorks is.
Well, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Last of Us, the movie, coming out.
Anything at all to do with the video game?
No, it's Maggie. It just looks like The Last of Us, the game, starring Arnold as Joel, but it's not The Last of Us. It's really not. Oh, Fury Road. Mad Max is coming out.
All right, that is coming out.
That's pretty much it. Like, I'm scrolling down here, and I'm seeing a few things. I'm only in May still. Jesus. Yeah, Poltergeist is gonna bomb. San Andreas is gonna be okay. That's the one with The Rock in it as a helicopter pilot, I believe.
Okay.
Jurassic Park is June 12th. Yeah, that's really it. Oh man, Magic Mike XXL. That's all.
Oh well, hold on. Yeah, let's stop for that one. Let's consider it for a moment.
And then Ant-Man eventually comes out. But looking through all this is that there's not too much competition, like exact genre competition. It all depends on how well Jurassic World does and how good Mad Max Fury Road is. But I would easily say that Mad Max Fury Road, since it's a R-rated post-apocalyptic movie, is not exactly competition.
Yeah, I don't imagine those two will have that much of a bleed over.
Except for the fact that people who want to see really awesome movies.
Yeah.
Because I know it's not our thing, but holy shit, does that movie look really good.
I haven't seen the first Mad Max, so I'm a little bit...
Who gives a fuck? Watch that second trailer. Holy shit. It just looks amazing. It's just the way that the whole thing works is that it's going to be fantastic, but moving on from that. But yeah, it sucks the fact that of where Ant-Man's coming out that they're not advertising it. And the fact that we have a major movie coming out from the MCU, the last movie in Phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just starting to be advertised.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit concerning, but I have enough faith in Marvel at this point. They've earned enough that I'm gonna go with the flow on this one. I'm gonna say that they have an idea on this. I have to assume that they're not just doing this because they're worried about the film or anything like that. Because Feige's been talking about it rather regularly in interviews.
He has. It's also the way Feige does things. But the thing that I feel is that I don't think that it's going to be a movie that's going to bomb. It's not going to bomb. It's just not going to do great. I'm thinking Thor 2 numbers.
And that's still really good. I mean, it's not
decent.
Not like going to blow the bank off of anything, but that's still. I mean, that's a profit. I think a lot of studios would be dying to get at this point.
But it's the problem with it is that this is the movie that really should have come out earlier in the year, and Avengers should have been coming out a little later.
Yeah,
they should have been switched.
And I feel like because of the whole Spider-Man into the MCU lineup pushing everything back a little bit. I feel like we're going to get that exact same situation once Black Panther comes around, because that's going to be now happening after the first part of Infinity Wars.
Yeah, oof.
So that's a rough spot to be in for a new property. I mean, we'll see him a bit in Civil War, but it's still like, ooh, I almost wonder if we could have found a way to sneak that in ahead of Avengers.
Yeah, oof, that's a rough deal. Damn, because I'm really looking. Actually, no, is Black Panther coming out prior to Infinity War now?
No, it's coming out after it. It was the one that was right before it, and then because of the bump, they moved all the non-Avengers movies back. So it's now in where Captain Marvel was, and now in the Inhumans is the one that's happening after both of the Infinity War movies.
Yeah, that's a weird. That's weird.
Yeah, I don't really get that one so much, like having a movie after Infinity Wars, but maybe that is their way of being like, hey, it's like Ant-Man. This is really the end of Phase 3. I don't know.
Well, the Inhumans, based on what we're already seeing about them, is going to be a big fucking deal, too.
Yeah, it's almost just like, how can you hold on to that, though, for what's essentially going to be like 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
We shall see. Maybe they'll pop up somewhere before then.
Yeah, maybe Sky will get her own movie.
That would be interesting.
Which is something that's not going to happen, probably.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing against Sky or S.H.I.E.L.D., but...
No.
No.
But yeah, so speaking of the Inhuman stuff, anyone who's not watching S.H.I.E.L.D., because there's quite a few people out here who don't watch S.H.I.E.L.D., because season 1 wasn't the greatest.
No, it wasn't particularly. The end of season 1 was pretty good, though.
But if you look at the numbers, they lost like half their audience.
Oh, yeah.
Between like the first couple episodes and the Captain America tie-in.
I mean, that's where I dropped off. It got like 6 episodes in, and I was like, F this. And then like I was like, oh shit, they destroyed S.H.I.E.L.D. and fucking Captain America. How are they going to do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I need to check this out.
Yeah, exactly.
And their answer was, we're just going to pretend it didn't really happen so much.
Exactly. We're just going to completely ignore it.
It's like, no, our S.H.I.E.L.D's still around. And there's also the second S.H.I.E.L.D. hanging around, too.
We'll get into that later. But no, I mean, season 2 started, I mean, they did a much better job with setting up season 2. Season 2 started off really great. I really like what they've done with season 2. I'm still debating. I think that they had to go with the Inhuman stuff as early as they did because the people who aren't watching, they're balls deep in Inhumans.
Yeah.
I mean, that is their answer to powered people, is either science experiments, which there has been a few, and Inhumans.
Yeah, and they really are. It's not just in the shows. It's becoming Marvel as a whole's new MO is Inhumans are our new mutants. Push these guys. It's all about the Inhumans. It's less about the X-Men. And I get it.
Yeah, and it looks like that's what they might be doing with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Although hasn't somebody said that they're not Inhumans?
They're not Inhumans. I think they're different. They're like quote unquote miracles is the term they use, and I think it's just supposed to be people who get powers through scientific reasons or magical reasons, but aren't actually Inhumans. It's sort of a weird qualification.
Or whatever Strucker's up to.
Yeah.
Which we're going to find out. Hooray.
Relatively soon.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited. Maybe after the movie, Strucker will finally pop up in the show because they've been talking about him enough.
Well, next week is the episode that's going to connect with Ultron. There's actually going to be a crossover. It's only in the U.S. Like they'll get the episode in the U.K., but their dates don't match up at all because the U.K. got the movie this week, and they won't get the episode that's supposedly like the tie-in until about a month from now.
Yeah, the UK gets fucked on this whole thing when it comes to the TV show.
I was going to say, they got the fucking movie a week ahead of us, so they made out like bandits.
Yeah, but to be honest...
I've had to block like 8 British friends on Twitter because I just can't trust them to not spoil the movie.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But yeah, it's one of those weird things where, I mean, it's set up for us. Like, I can only imagine how confused the people in Britain were. Like, they saw Captain America, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is still okay in the show.
That is like, well, that seems strange.
Yeah. But in the end, I think it's really interesting that they're going full bore with the Inhumans. I think they kind of had to, because they couldn't dangle. I think that they kind of almost went too fast with certain of their plot points. I mean, within the structure of the show that they did, but they kind of started them too early. Like, for me, in my own mind, that all of the stuff with the Kree and the Inhumans was almost a season early.
Yeah, I mean, they jumped in really quickly into, like, here's the Inhumans plot, and it's weird, because this season's almost felt like 3 seasons to me. Like, I feel like so much has happened.
So much fucking content in this season alone. It's ridiculous.
And, I mean, I understand it, because they were kind of worried about their numbers. Like, hey, let's do something that's going to pull people in, because, as much as maybe we like just being this, almost like police procedural / superhero series, if we don't actually have like cool superhero elements to it, people just aren't going to watch it.
Exactly. And then I feel like they kind of jumped the gun with that because we are now expected to keep all of this in human knowledge for another, like, what, 2-3 years?
Yeah, I mean, at this
Sorry, 3-4 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think Inhumans at this point, I think it's supposed to come out, if it's not late 2017, it may even be in 2018 at this point.
I think it is 2018.
So that's a long time for us to kind of sit on this.
Exactly, and that's the biggest problem that Shield right now has, is that with the meta knowledge that we're not going to be seeing big Inhuman stuff movie wise for a number of years, it really makes you wonder what they're going to do. Although they have perfectly set it up in the show that it is only the Earth Inhumans.
Yeah, this is not any relation to the royal family. At least they haven't made any mention of the royal family.
No mention of it whatsoever.
And presumably that's, what the Inhumans movie is going to be about, with Vin Diesel's Black Bolt and all that. So, I mean, they do have it out there, but it is like, how much can you do with this Inhuman stuff without it eventually being like, well, why isn't the royal family? Like, what actually does get them involved in all this stuff?
Exactly. I mean, right now they're being, based on what they've alluded to in the last episode, any spoilers here, that Inhumans are being captured and experimented on by Strucker and List. Right?
Yeah. Yes, because they took, what's his name, didn't they?
Yeah, the kid who was going on a camping trip.
Yeah. So it's definitely like these are elements. The Inhuman element is going to be involved in larger aspects of the MCU because it's been a big plot point this season that powered people are now coming into prevalence as a way to set up for Civil War.
Yeah.
So we got that element added into the show. So Inhumans are going to have to remain an element because you can't just be like, well, we use this virus to wipe out all the Inhumans until the movie comes out. Like, they're going to be there and they're going to presumably be doing something. And just a case of like, well, if S.H.I.E.L.D.'s going to keep going, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's a story that's just going to have to be told in some aspect now that Skye's an Inhuman and, we've met all these different characters. So the stories they've told are cool, but it's one of those things that every time I read it, I watch it, I just, in my back of my mind, the storyteller, and he's like, I don't know where you go with this for 3 years.
Yeah, I just have a feeling that they pretty much know that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. probably isn't going to be around for many more seasons.
Yeah.
They really they can't sustain a show like this for that much longer. I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. is a great show. I absolutely love S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, the budget's gotten to the point now where I'm perfectly okay with the show, budget-wise. It looks great.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I have with the show is that unless they do another really big shakeup, what's going to end up happening is that post-Civil War, even the lead up to Civil War, is going to be a little drawn out.
Yeah. I mean, we have to go under the assumption that we're getting presumably at least another half season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before Captain America comes out, potentially even a whole another season because it's coming out, what, March of next year or is it May?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't have
I feel like it's March, so we may not get a full season, but we're at least going to get a half season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. presumably before then. And they're already kind of deeply into the Civil War stuff, just, with the Inhumans as opposed to superheroes per se.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be something that they're going to have to address that. But yeah, I guess the thought is maybe Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. won't hang around for all those 3 years, so they can just say, well, the Inhuman stuff does just kind of sit off to the side. Just like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are still doing things, but they're not going to have a show.
Yeah. It's going to be one of those things where I have a feeling that they may do like a mini series again after that, but because there's not going to be much for them to do. I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. has been sustaining on the Hydra threat and the Inhumans for a decent amount of time. We're okay for right now. Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
How much more can you really pull out of Hydra 2?
Exactly. Now that we're already at Strucker levels.
Yeah, we've already taken out, Kraken. We're going into Strucker. Red Skull presumably is not coming back anytime soon. You're running out of things to really keep it going, especially when all the characters they've introduced into the show too from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have pretty much been handled as well. So you're kind of sitting there like, how many more resources can Hydra possibly have left to keep it as a threat at this point?
And how much more branding can they really do?
Yeah.
I absolutely love the giant Hydra coffee table. That was hilarious.
It's just like, who made this?
Exactly.
Is there one like evil coffee maker, like coffee table maker out there, and he's just like, for Hydra anything?
Hail Hydra coffee. My favorite was during the episodes where they first really introduced Mockingbird, where they had like the Hydra attack team with full on like Hydra badges. Was one of the funniest fucking things.
Like it just everybody like it was just one day like someone in Shield's offices walked into like a storage room. It was just full of freaking Hydra paraphernalia. They're just like, what are all these? Nothing. Just, comrade, you just look other way.
Why are you Russian?
We're evil. It's what we do.
But yeah, so the other major thing that happened, of course, was we had Agent Carter hit. I've not finished Agent Carter. I'm actually in the middle of watching it now, which I will admit was the wrong fucking move. I should not have watched Agent Carter after Daredevil.
Agent Carter is a very different show than that. I almost would say Agent Carter is almost a very different show than even Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. in its own ways, though it's a lot closer to it.
I just mean that, like, I look at Agent Carter and I'm like, come on, they needed a bigger budget for the show.
Yeah, I mean, Daredevil's on a completely different level from anything else the MCU had done in terms of style, in terms of budget, in terms of nuance. It's all just absolutely on a different level. And Agent Carter has a lot of merits to it.
Yeah.
And it is like Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. where it definitely got better as time went on.
Mm-hmm.
But there were inherent problems to it that it couldn't get around. The biggest being these were all characters, generally, we knew the fates of. We know Peggy Carter's still alive. We know what happens to Howard Stark. We know, generally what happens to Jarvis, though his exact fate could be up the air. But it's like we know who's going to survive off of this. And what they could have done is put a bigger emphasis on the characters we didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest problem that happens in the finale is because of the fact that they tied the big fate of the episode to two characters we already know the result of.
Yeah.
And you just lose all of the drama when that happens.
Yeah, that's the whole prequel problem.
Yep.
That when you put characters in danger and have them do things like that. And then the other major problem that Agent Carter did is that a lot of it felt unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically about this whole, here, we're going to steal Howard Stark's stuff. And it's like, okay. And it's like, it's like, it felt like they were trying to figure out what they were going to tell from a story standpoint. They couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, like they make this big plot like, the Howard Stark's vault of inventions have been stolen, and it's you've got to get all of his inventions back and clear his name. And that really doesn't, like, they get the inventions back in episode 2, and then like they just kind of occasionally pop up after that whenever they need like some device to fulfill some plot purpose.
And there's only 8 episodes, and they didn't really even do that. They just it just kind of like, oh look, this happens.
It's cool in that I feel like Carter herself became a very cool character.
Yes.
One of my favorite comments was somebody being like, they should have given Peggy Carter the super soldier serum and Hydra had already been taken out by now, because she's this cool character who just gets shit done.
Yeah, could you imagine Peggy Carter like super soldier? Holy shit.
She'd be unstoppable. She doesn't have the super soldier serum and she's taken out like Black Widows. So, I mean, she's a great character in that aspect. And I like a lot of the writing they did with her.
I think a lot of the writing is pretty strong in the show. The only thing is that I really hate is that it screams TV show.
Yes. I mean, there's points in it too where things are very cheesy and hard to buy. I don't know if you're in mid episode 9, so I think you're actually just on the point that I want to bring up, but I don't want to spoil.
Episode 7, actually, because there's only 8 episodes.
That's right, 8 episodes. But there's a special effect, like, plot point that comes up, and I can buy it as like a sense of like, look, I get what you're trying to do here, but it just comes off so cheesy and goofy though. It's just like, oh, this is like, it's hard for me to swallow this, which is a shame because for the most part I enjoyed the series, especially as it went on.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment I was just like, oh, this is reminding me what people think of when they think comic books, like in a negative tone.
Yeah, I think that what Agent Carter could have used is a few more episodes, a more cohesive plot, some more time to bake. It definitely needed some more time to bake. And just a bigger budget. Like, my God, did it need a bigger budget?
And bigger budget and just a clear direction. It really needed to know what it was trying to be.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the whole idea of let's clear the name of somebody who we know his name is going to be cleared of, and the fact that she's working for a company that she's not going to be working for in the future. It's like it's like it doesn't have any drama and panache to it that allows it to actually have the gravitas that is needed so that you can actually care about what's happening. Because most of what's happening, you said, the results of. Everything's going to be fine in the end, or for the most part fine. Shield is going to be formed by this.
We know ultimately anything Peggy's going to do is not going to, work out because Hydra has to take over at some point. So it's not like she's going to root out all corruption or anything like that.
What I'd be more interested in, and there's been talks of a season 2, and I actually would like a season 2 because I think that the formation of Shield is a much more interesting story.
Yes.
Than this.
And I could get into that. I feel like they found a sweet spot in the series around like episode 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
Around there, they started to develop this villain who was kind of cool. They started to kind of tell. Basically, they're telling like almost an in between of like the sort of groundedness you got of Daredevil with just like the weird comic bookness of Agents of Shield, like a mix between them. If they keep things just grounded to Peggy's surrounding cast.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if they can hold on to that, it'll work. But if they delve too much off and trying to make the plot too big and too dramatic, it generally is just going to start involving elements we already know the fate of. So I'd stick it in more of a character piece and let us learn about, these characters in the world and their fates, the ones who you've created just for this, like Sosa and Thompson, I think was the one guy's name.
Like, I'm like watching the show and I'm just keep thinking, like, if this was about the building of S.H.I.E.L.D., you could have that great moments in the side where you could see Hydra starting and see the infiltration. And even though we know that, all of her stuff is fruitless, like, allow that kind of idea to seep into the show a little bit. That it's like a wall she can't climb.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be a good idea for a season 2, but who knows if we're actually going to get it, because recently there's been announced that there's an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Spin-off going to happen.
And I still don't, like, we were talking about it before the show, but I even after all this discussion, I still just can't think of what you do it on. And like we mentioned Inhumans off mic, but even then it's still that same problem. Like, what do you do with the Inhumans for 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't think of anyone else on the show that really I feel like I'd be like, I definitely would watch a show just about them.
Yeah.
I think all the characters in S.H.I.E.L.D. are generally pretty good.
Yeah, they're
I just can't think of one that I'm like, oh, but that one needs their own show because they're that good.
Exactly. Like, although we could have said the same thing about Coulson.
Yeah, you could. But and they very well could. Maybe they'll be like, hey, we're going to take May out of S.H.I.E.L.D. She gets her own team, but her whole team's awesome just like her, and that's what's going to get you into it. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
Yeah, I could definitely get into that. It's just on premise, as you say, like, we're going to spin someone off into their own show. I'm just like, I don't know who that's going to be. Surprise me, but I do not have faith in you quite yet.
It's all going to be about other director Adama. I mean, whatever his name is in fucking the real S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, it's going to be about the guy who's also in 12 Monkeys and Walking Dead and apparently everything else. That bald jerkhead dude.
Yeah, him. The guy who got, like, impaled and hasn't been seen since.
Yeah, that dude. Impaley.
Senior Impale. But yeah, that's the problem that Agent Carter had, and the big problem was that I watched it after Daredevil, which was the worst mistake I could have made, because every single issue that Agent Carter had was like fixed in Daredevil.
Oh, it's their incomparable series. It's
because of that.
Yeah. It's just impossible to look at them and feel like they're on the same field. And I love S.H.I.E.L.D., but Daredevil just completely took everything Marvel did and made a much better version of it. It did something completely new and just defined itself the entire way through.
And what I mean specifically is Agent Carter to that is what I'm saying is that's what fixed all the problems, because I think that S.H.I.E.L.D. exists perfectly fine with its own thing, and the fact that I wouldn't fix a lot of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I think that what it does is great. There's a lot of really good stuff it does in there. It's just Agent Carter was the series definitely that could have used its own Netflix series as opposed to being the mid-season break. Like, my God, some of those sets were atrocious.
Yeah.
Agent Carter. Like for instance, the boat set.
Oof, yeah. There's some stuff that you're just looking at and you're just like, oh man, it's a bit of a weird setup you got going there. And one of the things that also, this is like a weird complaint to have, but there's a lot of actors I really love in Agent Carter, and I'm bummed because like the general rule in Marvel is once you've been cast in a role, you don't get another role somewhere else because that's who you are now.
Yeah.
So like anybody in Agent Carter is not going to show up anywhere else. So Bubbles from Boardwalk Empire or from The Wire, and Ralph Garman who played the radio announcer in the Captain America like dramas they did. Those guys won't be in anything else. I'm just like, damn, I really want to see them in other things.
Yeah, but then again, you never know. Some of the smaller people may appear again, which I think that has happened already.
It's possible. I think there's some people who they maybe used early on. They may try to use again. Like Michael K. Williams is a cameo in not even a cameo. He just happens to be in one of the shots of the Incredible Hulk, and I have to feel like they're like, well, we can try to use that guy again.
Yeah.
Let's not have him just be gangster running away from Hulk in scene, and we'll actually do something with him.
Exactly. So you never know what they're gonna do with something like that. But on to Daredevil finally, because that is like a fucking jewel in their crown now. Because if you could say anything about this whole phase of the MCU, like not just the phase itself, but everything that's happened since the Avengers, Daredevil is really up there for stuff that they nailed. The only thing that I could say that is wrong about Daredevil is that the last couple episodes didn't have enough urgency.
Yeah, it's almost like a show like the show needed one or two more episodes to just build to the conclusion it had.
Yes.
But
And it didn't really, and that like that penultimate episode was just kind of there.
yeah, and the conclusion itself just happened really quickly. Like it was just all right. Now they're having their final confrontation. You're like, there's other stuff going on though, right? And you're like, yeah, but we're handling that really quickly because we got to get to this.
Yeah, it kind of felt like that, but I felt like the thing is that once these, like especially with the way that they did their plot, once they got to the point where everything was kind of falling into place the good way,
Mm-hmm.
they could not draw it out at that point because of the characters involved, like especially Fisk. It's like once shit starts going bad for Fisk, he's out.
Yeah, you can't slow things down at that point.
Exactly. And the problem that I mainly had is that they had one episode beforehand to kind of say like things are going to start going their way, like people are starting to work together, and it's over.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that they had this really great build up and it ends with kind of like things look their darkest because like one of the main characters gets killed, and it's kind of everything slows down after that point, and it's like it has the little breather, then the show's over.
Yeah.
It's like shit. That was the big problem that I had. But other than that, like holy shit.
It's incredible what the show is though. Like it does so many things in just a phenomenal way. It is almost in a way it's probably the most artistically shot thing in the entire MCU, including all of the movies. Even for all the what I love about James Gunn, the first like 2 or 3 episodes of Daredevil are so dynamically filmed, just with amazing uses of lighting as its own character, particularly the color red and how they paint this Hell's Kitchen that they've created, because the real Hell's Kitchen is nothing like that anymore. But
it's Fiska's one in the real Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I things are going pretty well for me now at this point.
Yeah.
But the direction, the cinematography, the fight scenes. I mean, everyone's talking about the fight scene at the end of episode 2, the sweeping crane shot of this hallway over and over again. It basically created this world that was so visually distinct that it was so jarring and beautiful and just enrapturing the moment you saw it.
Yeah, and then once you're kind of halfway through Daredevil, you kind of look at everything else and go, damn it. God damn it, Marvel. You went really good really fast.
Yeah, there's a thing that happens about midway through the season where it stops being as dynamic as much. It's still good, but they start using more basic shots. I imagine part of that's just because, as they went on to like, look, we've got you with this, but to keep up all of that, it would just be too expensive even
It
for
would
our
be.
budget.
And
So
they keep it up with a lot of the action scenes and how things are paced. But I specifically mean like you get about halfway through the series, and then you kind of realize that other TV shows, they're gone. It's things are done now. It's like I just want more Daredevil.
yeah, that's the rough thing is like sitting here now like when are you coming out, Jessica Jones? I mean, I know nothing about your character, but I want to see that show so much now just based off of what Daredevil did.
Yeah, and I'm really pumped for Jessica Jones. I mean, it now has the unevident. I cannot even fathom how nervous and stressful they must be after seeing everyone gush about Daredevil, and they're just like, shit.
All right, we're going in with even less of a name brand value than Daredevil had, but
And we're a newer comic too.
yeah, we're a newer comic, and we maybe I don't know if they have. I'm trying to think who the showrunner is. I know I feel like I know her name, but
She
I'm blanking on
did
it.
some stuff. She's been campaigning for a Jessica Jones show since like the comic came out,
Oh, well, that's a good sign then.
and she was also I think one of the writers for the Twilight movies.
Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, basically, right now, I'm just like, if they can nail Jessica Jones with the same kind of like just distinct flavor they nailed Daredevil with, not the same flavor, because I feel like Jessica Jones has her own identity. It's not going to
She's
be.
also lighter as a character too.
Yeah, she's not going to be like that gritty, bloody, beaten in the middle of a rainy alleyway kind of character. But she's going to have her own dark tone to her too. I just want to say, especially with David Tennant playing a
The
character
villain.
who from what I hear, is just nothing but a heinous human being.
Yeah, and the best thing about it is that I mean, Tumblr's gonna like it.
Yeah.
Tumblr's gonna fucking love this show.
Oh God! If they do even 1/9 of what I've heard, the Purple Man and Jessica Jones relationship is like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of interesting comments going around.
There is, and a lot of interesting fan art too, probably.
Oh, I imagine that would have happened regardless of whether or not those tones were in it. But
Exactly.
I feel like if they can nail that tone, that they're gonna have something really cool on their hands. What Daredevil created was this thing that was just so stylistic, but what carried it was this phenomenal writing, particularly with its villain. I feel like it's not a stretch at all to say Fisk is, if not he's definitely in like the top 3 Marvel villains in their MCU.
Yeah, I mean, by virtue of how much screen time he got, he's definitely up there for big villains. I mean, my only thing that's above him right now is my personal love of Ultron, because Ultron is just such a dark character. I love Ultron to death. But Fisk is pitch perfect.
What they did with him is just incredible because they've taken this character and they built these fantastic layers around him. The first time I saw Fisk, I thought it was like a joke. Like he has this weird way of talking. It's very forceful and put on. There's like a weird sort of slow cadence to it. Like he's thinking of every word before he says it. Very comic booky. But as you watch the show and you realize it's not like he's planning every word out. He's just barely keeping himself together, and that's what's kind of holding this weird cadence. It's like this fake voice he's putting on, this whole persona for this weird angry man child, and it's just this phenomenal look in this character. There's so much nuance built into him, so much development you get out of him. He just becomes this astonishing character by the end of it, where you're like, this is a whole new identity for the Kingpin. I mean, in the TV show, which is probably a lot of people's exposure to Kingpin, he's just like, "Oh, Spider-Man, I'll get you," and he had like a big chicken leg in his hand or something like that.
And then like the fucking what was it, the Chrysler building that he was in?
Yeah, like the Chrysler Building or whatever. Just
It had that fucking like landing pad of the front of it, and people would come in. He's just sitting there like in a chair, in his giant fucking white suit with an ascot, which they made fun of. Thank God they made fun of that in Daredevil.
And they also used it for fantastic imagery too,
Mm-hmm.
with the scene with Vanessa picking out his suit. But what they did with them in this series is they've created a whole new identity for him, and they've made Kingpin this distinct figure among Marvel's villains now. I heard Todd in the Shadows compared it basically to what Batman the Animated Series did with Mr. Freeze, and I can't really say it's not that far off the mark. I feel like they've really reinvented that character now.
Yeah, like there's so many people that are just like you root for Fisk and then he's a monster. And then he slowly wins you over again a little bit, then he's a monster again.
He's the best way of writing a villain in that you don't hate him because you're like, he's sympathetic. This guy had a fucked up life. This guy's thought process isn't all completely wrong, but you can never root for him because you're like, this is a person who makes bad decisions. So he chooses to do bad things to people, and he is a bad person, but he's just not this like anonymous thing of evil, kind of like what a lot of the Marvel movies have had. Like, I'm, Malekith and I hate everything and I'll destroy it. You're like, no, this guy's got layers to him, and that's the big advantage of having 13 hours to tell your story is you get episodes just dedicated to showing off who Fisk was.
And the fact that his goal was just to make Hell's Kitchen better.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his entire goal. It wasn't like nefarious better.
Yeah, it was still coming from this place of like, I can make this a more beautiful place.
And that was it.
Yeah, like it came about through drugs and through corruption and all that. But his goal, and he's never really lying when he says he's like, I make Hell's Kitchen a better place to stop the things that happened to me from happening to anyone else.
It's just, and I love the fact they even address it in the show. It's like, you're right, but not this way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes him such a great character, is that he's not just this pure evil thing running around, which is probably what Tenet is going to be a little bit of.
Yeah, but I feel like that's also good to play it up a little bit. You don't want all of your characters to feel exactly the same, because sometimes evil is just evil, but they still need development for it. And I think we'll get that out of Tenet's Purple Man, or whatever they're going to call him.
Yeah, and the difference, though, is that, sometimes you need some kind of black and white to kind of go against something, because in the end, the hero and the villain have to be different sides of the same coin. That's what makes a great arch nemesis. And that when you have someone like Matt Murdock, the whole arc of him is realizing what he wants to be as a hero. That is the whole point of the show, is that it's him realizing who he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
He has an idea of what he wants to be, and he strives for it. But there's a good part of the middle of the series where he's struggling with what he has to do.
Yeah, he doesn't want to go too far. He basically wants to hold into this idea like, oh, I can be a hero, but I'll never kill, or I'll never do this. I can live with the guilt, but I can't. I can't lie to my friends, but I will. He has a lot of turmoil he's going through, and that's what makes it really compelling. They nailed the Catholic part of his character, like just the never-ending barrage of guilt.
Yeah, and that's the big thing about that. And then the other coin of that is Fisk, who's already come to terms with it. He's already made those decisions, and he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they're interesting characters, and they can both be ambiguous. They can both be that. From the sounds of it, with Jessica Jones versus a character is that she is already done with her superhero career. She's done.
Mm-hmm.
She had a bad accident. I think she accidentally killed somebody as part of her plot, and she's now a private investigator, and that's what she does. So we're past the point. She knows who she is, and she's a good person, and she wants to help other people, which is why they can go a little more stark with her villain.
Yeah, you could put something more evil there, and they'll still do something cool with it. It's still not going to be, it's not going to be just like, Malekith, but for 13 episodes. You can still get development out of them. And that's like the huge advantage to this Netflix series is you can just make your villain almost a secondary character, main character. Because there's episodes that are almost not solely focused on Fisk, but he's the bullet point to it. He's the beginning, the ending. His character arc is the focus of that episode. And you can do that with these sort of series. And I'm really excited to see what they do, because that's going to happen in Jessica Jones at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I know that they're going to. And that's what I'm excited to see. Like, what are you going to do with this character? Especially a character we really have no exposure to. He's never been in a TV show. He's been in the Marvel Earth's Mightiest Heroes in one episode, and people probably forgot about him.
Yeah.
This is a character that a lot of us are going to be exposed to, so they really can go hog wild with this and develop a new identity. I feel like that's what these Netflix series can do, is they can just reestablish all these side villains that nobody really cared about, and they're like, no, this is our new Marvel villain pantheon.
Yeah. I mean, we've taken Wilson Fisk, or the Kingpin, who was a big villain. He was a very well-known villain. He wasn't always cartoonish. He was very good in the comics as the head of like all of the mob.
Yeah.
Like he was the kingpin. He was this big guy, literally and status-wise. And the fact that they took that and they somehow made it better is kind of amazing. And I would also like to deeply, deeply thank the Marvel team for not going too far into Crazy Frank Miller Town.
No, and I've heard this from a lot of people. They're like, it's basically just Miller, but it's not in that it's got an edge to it, but it's not like just gross and dark and gritty for the sake of it. It's never going to be like, oh hey, here's this character and we're going to beat the shit out of them because that would be gritty and dark. Like I guess Karen Page in some version of the story is like a junkied out former stripper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're just like, no, they didn't need to do that. That they seem to be hinting that maybe that's part of her past. Like maybe, there is something she's not telling these guys. But they made her a character that they established in so much more of a heroic and inspiring way before they're just like, here's this gritty, Sin City style character.
Like I don't want to go too far into this, but it's kind of like the opposite of what they're doing with a certain Batman Superman movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which is going completely into Crazy Frank Miller Town.
We'll because we did have that segment before, how's DC fucking things up. We'll have to save that for another episode.
Yeah, because that could be in a whole episode, because my God.
But I really like, and Kevin Smith is well known for writing one of the highly regarded runs of Daredevil. And I just finished listening to the podcast he did on Fat Man on Batman where he talks about it, and he couldn't have more glowing reviews to say about it. I mean, granted, he's also like stoned all the time, so everything's usually pretty cool to him, but yeah. He did have very cool things to say about it. He was really excited for it. So for someone who's known the character so well, and is actually written for them to be that high on it, it's pretty cool to see it. And I'm more interested in Daredevil because of this. I'm really excited. We already got a season 2.
Yeah, that's another thing that they announced. Too bad we're not getting Steven DeKnight back as the showrunner, but he's already said that they didn't know that they were going to get a season 2. And he was brought in at the 11th hour to be the showrunner. Yeah,
Drew Goddard left because Spider-Man.
LOL, Spider-Man.
Sinister Six called him, and he went for that. And then now that that's done, there's rumors he may just direct the Marvel adaptation of Spider-Man.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And I can imagine that they're just like, okay, well, welcome back. And he's just like, I'm sorry, guys.
Whoops.
Oops. Although, who knows? Maybe he could have helped to broker the deal.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And you know what? I feel like they could find someone out there who will still help. I feel like that's not an impossibility or anything like that.
Yeah. But the biggest thing that I can say, and this is the sad thing about losing DeKnight, is that DeKnight was a huge Daredevil fan. You could hear it in every interview that man did, that he loves Daredevil. And it's one of those things that you can kind of tell with certain people when they're talking about the movies that they make or the shows that they make. They're like, oh, this is pretty neat, blah, blah, blah. Drew Goddard's like, dude, Daredevil's fucking awesome.
Daredevil punch you out, man.
And I like that the thing that you can imagine in every single interview, one character was mentioned in every interview. Every interview, the Punisher was mentioned.
Yeah, and that's like another topic being brought about. They're like, is this the door open for a Punisher series?
And DeKnight's like, sure, why not?
Yeah, like it's everything. Look, you saw what we did. Just put guns in it.
Pretty much. And to be honest, that Punisher is another side of the Daredevil coin. I think DeKnight actually said it, that one bad day, Matt Murdock could become the Punisher.
Yeah, and you can absolutely see that from watching the series, where you're just like, if he accidentally like pushes one guy too far, or somebody does actually kill someone he cares about, like in that moment, he absolutely would just go berserk.
Yeah, Matt Murdock is just one bad away from him being Frank Castle. And bring back DeKnight, give him the Punisher. That would be fantastic. And to be perfectly honest, they're really, really fucking close to just being able to just slot in the Punisher and no one would bat an eye.
Yeah, I mean, we know what we're getting right now. Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, then Defenders. But that's not saying that Marvel can't come out with more television shows, just in different aspects later on.
And who the hell knows what they're going to do with season 2 of Daredevil?
Yeah, I mean, that's a door open to put Punisher in there, or Elektra, or these other characters. You're like, oh no, these are distinct things, but we'll just introduce them through other parts of this Netflix universe we have now.
Yeah, I mean, in Daredevil, pretty much Bullseye and Elektra have been mentioned.
Yeah, so we've got that kind of set up. And you know, there's other series that are coming out where you're just like, there's people we can just start putting into these things, and we'll just introduce them that way.
I would absolutely love for them to just make Punisher one of the villains of season 2 of Daredevil. It'd be great.
Oh yeah.
Like, also, by the way, I mentioned Bullseye. If anyone wonders what I mean by that, there's a shot in towards like the middle of the series. There's a sniper, and he has the Ace of Spades in his gun case, and that's the calling card of Bullseye.
Oh, I did not pick up on that.
Yeah, he has the Ace of Spades in his case, and since the guy's a sniper, plus that, and the guy did not miss, ergo Bullseye. The Elektra one's incredibly obvious, though.
Yeah, the Elektra one. I mean, we've basically had the hand all but confirmed to us at this point. So
yeah, it's just like there was this Greek girl. It did not work out. Fucking really.
Avocados at law, man.
Avocados at law. That's why there's been some hilarious pictures when season 2 was announced of just people taking pictures of guacamole.
Yeah.
I've seen tons of that, and it was kind of wonderful. But no, I'm really excited. I think we talked about it when Daredevil was announced, that they could easily just make the Punisher a villain in Daredevil, and it works perfectly.
He fits right into it.
He does, and after seeing the show, take out Matt Murdock, put in Frank Castle, and I would love it just as much. And have him murdering people, and it would be an amazing show. And they went really far with Daredevil.
Oh my god, yeah. They really did not cut corners in like showing brutality and violence and all that. So it definitely feels like something they could just slot right in, and you just actually have the hero kill.
Yeah.
Or protagonist, whatever antagonist, whatever he's going to be in that.
Yeah, I could definitely. He wouldn't be like a quote unquote villain of the week, which that's another thing. That's why Daredevil works so well. There's no villain of the week.
There's no villain of the week. There's no false drama where you had to set up like a commercial break or anything like that. We're really reaching a day and age where, because we've seen it work in these formats, the classic television break, 40-minute episode is really becoming like like almost old and archaic when you see the alternative, when you're like, oh, we don't have to set up like a false, cliffhanger just because TV commercial breaks coming on. So I guess we'll just make it look like Daredevil's going to get hit by this car and then he'll jump out of the way of it in the next second.
Yeah.
It works really well in that manner. It kind of, watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now, I'm just all the more aware when those moments do happen. And you're just like,
Yeah, it's terrible. It's one of those things where it's like Daredevil has like ruined all the other MCU shows for me to a certain extent. It's like I'm watching S.H.I.E.L.D. and the only thing that's kind of keep me in S.H.I.E.L.D. now after watching Daredevil, I mean stylistically speaking, is the fact that I want to know where they're going.
Yeah.
Like I would be perfectly fine if they say, okay, we're canceling S.H.I.E.L.D. It's going to be a Netflix show now. I'd be like, good. I'm happy with this decision. I would love, like, here is 13 episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it's just, here's an arc.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, cool.
I'll take this.
I will take an entire season of them just hunting Hydra. Here's what, another spinoff idea. Like, what's Deathlock up to? Deathlock, sorry. That's the band.
I do it all the time, so.
Happens. But, yeah, it's like, I really, really want, I want more things like Daredevil, less like Agent Carter. I really liked Agent Carter. I think Agent Carter would have been an excellent Netflix show.
Yeah. It's not the premise that we don't like, it's just the medium.
Yeah, I think it was the wrong medium for it. I mean, honestly, I think it could have been a better movie.
Yeah. You can do so much with these characters, and you can do so much now with this Netflix model that television just can't do, where regular cable television just can't do anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of it for the TV shows, at least. I mean, next up, as you mentioned, is Jessica Jones. Then after that is Iron Fist, and then Luke Cage, then Iron. It's Iron Cage. Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Memory serves.
Yeah,
because they switched Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
Yeah. Well, though we are getting Luke Cage in
In
Jessica
Jessica
Jones.
Jones. Yeah, because they were married at one point and had a
Yeah.
kid.
So
And
we
there's already been set shots of the two of them on a bike together.
yes, and I like the set shots we've seen of Jessica Jones thus far.
Yeah,
Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones seems like a good choice.
yeah, she'll be able to bring just the things that make Jessica Jones a great character. Because anyone who doesn't know, because you most likely don't, the best thing about Jessica Jones is that she suffers from PTSD, which is an interesting thing for a superhero show to be dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot wait to see how they handle that. But the one that kind of makes me cagey is that how far away Iron Fist is. Sorry, Luke Cage. I get them confused. It's Iron Fist. That's the one I'm concerned about. Jesus Christ, they get them confused. Is that we have had Iron Fist illusions in Daredevil. Right?
Yes, we found there's an episode. I don't want to spoil for people who haven't seen Daredevil yet for any reason, but there's an episode that is almost not like a separate entity because it does follow the Daredevil plot, but it's never there's things that happen at the end of the episode that are not followed up on at all,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because it seems to be that they're setting up what I imagine is going to be the antagonist for the Defenders whenever that comes out. Like this is an organization that's supposed to be bigger than just Daredevil, and it would tie very heavily into Danny Rand, Iron Fist, that kind of universe.
Yeah. Also the Madame Gao stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All of that. Like specifically, anyone who didn't catch this, the symbol on the drugs is straight out of Iron Fist.
So we have that stuff set up.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be curious to see if the series do start to come faster now, because it's not like it's the movies where basically there's a team behind each one of these shows, and it's sort of their own team. So I'm wondering if now that Daredevil's proven itself, so successful, that maybe they will kind of like, all right, let's start getting a team ready for Luke Cage, and let's start, get ready to get that out. Because Jessica Jones did move up in schedule. I don't think it was supposed to come out this year, but now it looks ready for holiday.
Yes, very specifically in the announcement, I think I tweeted this, and I don't know if you saw it and agreed with me. The announcement that Daredevil was getting a season 2, they very specifically said, AKA Jessica Jones will be coming out later this year.
Yeah.
Which was the first time they've ever said that. They've kind of alluded to, it'll be coming out soon.
Yeah, it'll be out there. There's some cast pictures, but now they're very clearly being like, it's going to be 2015. You're getting 2 Netflix series in 2015.
Because they originally said, very plainly, that they were going to be coming out a year apart.
Yeah.
That's no longer the case.
I can't even imagine they could do that anymore, because it would just be, people would be so, because especially if these shows do have their own flavors, you wouldn't want it to be like, oh, okay, well, a lot of people like the grittiness of Daredevil, but here's something a little bit more noir. But don't worry, you'll get your grittiest. It's just going to come 3 years later when,
yeah,
everything else. I mean, like, no, let's start, let's get these teams on them and let's start churning them out. I mean, it's not like you don't have the money, Marvel. Avengers 2 is probably going to make $2 billion.
And let's be honest, based on how quickly they announced season 2 of Daredevil, it made a fuck ton of money.
I imagine that was a series that got a ton of traffic on Netflix, and that was enough for them to be like, hey, let's just keep pumping these out. It didn't seem like anyone was lacking confidence going into it, and the fact that even afterwards they're still like, all right, that was pretty surprising. So I have to imagine that they got some really big traffic on that.
And let's also be very frank on this. How long was Daredevil trending on Twitter?
Pretty long. I mean, it came out that Friday, and I think into Sunday it was still like a top trending topic because everyone was just binge watching it.
It was through Sunday. It was number 1. It was in the top 10 through Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was really funny because around, Saturday when Hillary announced she was running for president, she kind of went up there, Daredevil went down for a little bit, the Daredevil just took right the fuck over.
That'd be great if in her announcement she's just like, and I'm gonna really support people, #Daredevil. She just tries to jump on the train for it too.
I really like Daredevil too.
She's like, I'm also a superhero in my own way.
I'm doing this announcement really fast because I got to get back to watching Daredevil.
Yeah, guys, I'm running for president. By the way, holy shit, that fight scene at the end of episode 2. What do you think it was one take?
What the fuck?
Hashtag Daredevil, hashtag one take. Also, hashtag Hitler's president.
It was really funny, and it was going on for a little while, and right as soon as it died down was because of Star Wars.
Yeah. And I'm sure Disney had to be really happy about that. They're like, oh, our thing that went for 6 days trending at number one got beat up by our other thing that's now going to be trending for 3 days at number one.
And as soon as that went away, season 2 got announced, and then that hit number one.
Oh man,
that was so funny. And social media alone, if you've got a TV show that is on Netflix and it trends for that long, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's now going to be one of Netflix's premier things. I mean, before it was what? Orange is the New Black, House of Cards, and I forget they have another one on there, and I'm just blanking on.
BoJack Horseman?
Yes, BoJack Horseman. We'll go with that. Those series are now going to be joined with Daredevil as just being like, here's this thing, pushing this delivery system that is the future. It absolutely is. And this is going to be one of their flagship programs now. And they're going to have more of them to start doing. Like, it's almost a little unnerving how pervasive Marvel is getting now.
Yeah, they are literally becoming the Empire.
Yes, and it's... And I know we didn't want to make this anything about DC, but every time I see something like Daredevil come out, I just think back to the DC, and I'm like, you guys are so fucking far behind, and you're not getting it. Like, I'm like, they just put this in the same universe as Rocket Raccoon and Doctor Strange and Iron Man, and you guys refuse to fucking make your Flash from the television show the same Flash who's going to be in the movie. Like, you guys are just, oh man, you're just missing.
And there's
huge money.
There are so many people clamoring for Daredevil to go into the movies.
I would not be shocked. I'd almost be more surprised if Daredevil in some way does not make a cameo in Civil War, because it's like he feels like almost a perfect fit for that.
He does. It makes a perfect fit for that. By the way, did you see the big Disney like "This Is Us whipping our dick out" picture?
Oh yeah, the one like here's everything that's coming out for the next, because it was the same like style that Marvel did for theirs. But because they have so many freaking things coming out, they only could do like a year and a half. They're like, here's what's coming out until the end of 2017. And it's like everything on there. You're just like, yeah, I'll probably see that.
It's like, yep. It was just kind of unnerving because it's all Marvel live action versions of animated movies. It's just fuck tons of Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's just, you just look at that going, Disney's going to have all the money. And then it's like, and then at the very end, it's just like, oh, by the way, goes the shell. Wait, what?
Yeah, what the? All right, fair enough.
Okay, then.
But yeah, I mean, it's astonishing how much. Like, I feel like, when we were kids, all of us grew up with Disney movies, so like Disney's like that ingrained word in our head. I feel like the next generation is going to have such a whole bigger perception of Disney too. It's going to be even more pervasive to them. Like, every kid's just going to be like, oh, did you see all that new Disney stuff? And they're going to be like, because we were like, oh yeah, Aladdin was great. They're gonna be like, no, fucking Iron Man was fighting Luke Skywalker. It's like, oh,
no, it's gonna be hilarious when it's like, did you see that new Disney thing? It's like, yes, I had to. It was government mandated.
Yeah, President Disney said I had to see
it. President Eisner.
Secretary of Defense Mr. Jr. said I had to go see it.
Yes, Disney just has too much power now. It's ridiculous how much power Disney has.
I will not be shocked if they do not start their own country at this point, like Disneylandia. Like, they have the money to just be their own economy.
No, they just make Wakanda.
Yeah, oh god, that'd be so cool.
Disney's just like, fuck it. We're just going to make up our own places now. Bye.
We're just buying a part of Africa to make Wakanda. And you nerds love it, don't you? Like, yes!
You're going to eat this shit up. Go to Wakanda in the first month and you'll see exclusive Marvel content there. And everyone just starts crying.
It's just like, yeah, we know our villains are Dr. Claw and Man-Ape, but you're still going to see this. Like, yes, I will.
I was imagining now that Marvel's like, we have to make a bad movie now. We just have to have a bad one at this point.
Would it even stop them that much? Like, it will slow them, but I feel like unless they start having stinker after stinker, they just have kept proving like, oh no, this stuff can still be good.
Yeah, and they've damn near taken away the one crown that DC had left, which is TV.
Yeah. I mean, I still hear very good I have not watched Flash beyond one episode. I still hear Flash is fantastic. So in that aspect, I can be like, okay, well, yes, maybe you are better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or you're at least, defying yourself very well there. But after seeing Daredevil, I feel like it's almost like it's comparing apples to oranges. Like it's just almost like
It's unfair.
two different. Yeah.
I mean, I watched 2 seasons of Arrow, and while I liked Arrow and I thought Arrow was great and all, my problem with it is that after a while you're just like, there's no stakes.
Mm-hmm.
The status quo will go on as long as the series is gonna go, and that's the problem when you have a superhero show going for too long.
Yeah, like when does this reach it? Like, what are you going to do eventually when you've run out of threats for this character to face? Are you just going to start inventing more and messing with the overall universe, or?
I mean, like, fuck, the main season villain of Arrow for 3 is Ra's al Ghul.
Which is, oh man, it was just weird to me on many levels. Like, one, I don't associate him with being like a Green Arrow villain.
He's a DC villain, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Ra's is a DC villain.
But I just sit there and I'm like, isn't he going to show up in Gotham too? Like, isn't he going to turn out to be fucking Bruce Wayne's fucking tutor at school or some bullshit?
Let's not talk about Gotham. I can't watch Gotham. I've heard some people go, Gotham's okay. Then I just hear, like, I think my favorite review ever is Daredevil is the antithesis of Gotham.
I mean, Daredevil was like, hey, here's a Batman show, essentially.
Yeah, it's kind of like how Captain America's a better Superman than Superman. Daredevil's a better Batman than Batman.
Oh yeah, I mean it's if you basically just imagined his suit is always black, and you just pretend it's Christian Bale or whatever, you're like, oh, this Batman series is great. I don't see the Joker anywhere, but who cares? This Kingpin guy's great.
They must have invented him for the show.
Yeah, I didn't need this. They didn't need to throw 8 villains in each week. This is great. I just need this guy.
Yeah. Fuck Gotham. And the best thing that can be said about Daredevil, and I'm hoping that all the other shows do this, is that they don't rely on the old format at all. They made a 13-hour movie.
Yes.
And there's parts of it that feel like very natural breaks, and it took all of my energy to not binge watch Daredevil.
I'm trying to think. I think I did 5 episodes the first night. And then I tried to just kind of go from there. I just watched them in chunks, and I finished it in the same weekend.
I didn't. It took me over a week.
I was a little bit kind of used to it because I'm currently trying to do the same thing with Walking Dead. I'm trying to catch up on that from the beginning, so I'm just kind of binge watching a little bit.
I'm so sorry, by the way.
Well, I'm midway through season 4, and all the steam's starting to get out. And I'm just like, everyone I know is dead, and this governor character's stupid as all hell.
How'd you make it through season 2?
I loved season 2. I must be like the one person who loved it, but I loved season 2. It was season 3 once the governor came in that I was just like, this is kind of ridiculous.
Has there been an attack on the prison by the governor?
Oh, there was one in the first season, or not the first, but the third season. He did that one.
Fun fact: in the comics, that's where he dies.
He really should die there. I know shit that he does now because everything in that series has been spoiled for me eventually. Like, I just couldn't get away from it. But I'm just like, I want this guy to be gone because he's brought nothing but bad things.
All of the 4th season is filler.
Yeah, I'm kind of noticing that.
Yeah, the way season 4 ends is the second half of the battle in season 3 in the comics.
Oof. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm hoping we'll still get good episodes out of it.
Yeah, good luck.
I'm hoping it will. It's been like 2 years since it came out. I don't know why I'm like holding on to it. Like, guys, it'll be great. Trust me.
Yeah, I couldn't make it through the first season.
I like the show. And I hate zombies, but yeah, I don't know. It's working for me. Anyway, this isn't a Walking Dead podcast, I guess.
The one thing I'll say about it, well, we're just rambling now at this point because we're back, and let's have a longer episode since we're back. My problem with that show is that I just can't stand an hour of people bitching at each other, and that's what the first season was.
Yeah, the first season had a lot of that. I think I got through it because I don't know why. Apparently, I'm the only person who thought so. I loved the character of Dale. Like, I thought he was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So he's what kind of carried me through the first like 2 seasons, and then he stops being as much of a role in the series, we should say. And at that point, I was like, all right, I need to, kind of latch on to some other people. And they pop up here and there. There's characters to really get into and like. But the thing that will just bother me is how cartoonishly evil the governor is, to the point where I'm like, I do not get how nobody is just like, hey, you seem like a pretty sketchy dude. Like, you really seem like you have to put up excuses a lot of the time to cover for these weird disappearances and these weird acts you're doing.
He was like that in the comics, though. He was very cartoonish in the comics about being
Yeah,
a
but
bad guy, but he was handled with more nuance in the show.
yeah, well, the thing that I guess separates the two of them for me is I'm like, okay, the comics are the comics. The show, if you ignore some aspects like the katana wielding chick and aspects like that, you kind of forget it's like based off a comic book series because it tries to kind of take itself a little bit more seriously. But then there's dudes like in a room sitting like staring at heads in jars. In like the first episode he's introduced, and then like 6 episodes later, the episode description is like someone finds out the governor's true colors. I was like, who? Everyone knows this guy is a weirdo. Who is he has left to expose himself to?
Gross. But no, like that's why I could not watch that show at all. Like everyone binge watches shows at this point. Like I binge watched Galactica. And then it's really funny with a show like Galactica, which I casually like because I did not like Galactica. I'm very picky when it comes to TV shows because when it comes to shows that I really like, it has to do with a certain amount of consequences. Nothing bothers me more than the status quo coming back in the same episode.
That is the bad problem when it's just like, oh, we changed it. No, it's back. Don't worry.
It's like people like not remembering Grudges until it is convenient for the story for them to remember Grudges.
Yeah.
And that Walking Dead has that.
Walking Dead has a lot of times where I have to like rationalize how these characters are trying to act in my own head. Like I'm just like, it's not. I feel like the way they're trying to explain it doesn't make sense, but I'll just make it make sense in my head.
And like there's a lot of time in that show. I don't know how bad it is in The Walking Dead, but Galactica did this, where like the last episode did not exist.
Oh yeah, there are definitely times like that. There's things that'll happen where like you're like, oh, this is kind of like a big thing, and it just never gets brought up again.
And you're like, it just immediately makes you lose steam for the show. And then the moment that Galactica killed off a character, and then they came back as Jesus, I was like, I'm done.
Literal Jesus, or
it kind of became Space Jesus. It was weird. The character's like, I'm going off, and the character's gone. Then the character just came back and was like, we're going the wrong way, guys.
We need to go to heaven. We need to go to Jerusalem.
I don't know why I'm being so cagey about a show that came out like 7 years ago.
You're like, this is my hill to die on now.
Fuck it, it's Starbucks. She just dies, then comes back, and it's so weird. And then they give her a ship, and she just goes off on her own. And then that's a side plot for like half a season, and it's so weird.
Yeah, that's the problem with syndicated television. It's just that it's hard to find the good ones nowadays. Like I'm liking Walking Dead, but I'm almost like liking it in spite of itself at times. There's great episodes here and there.
It's like you're in it now, so you might as well get through it, and then you're gonna probably judge if you want to keep going with it.
Yeah, like right now, my brother and sister are both big fans of it, so they're talking about it all the time. I'm like, I kind of just want to know what you're talking about. So I got into it. Like I was like, oh, the first season was pretty cool, kind of short, but whatever. And I loved season 2, so it's like, oh, I'll keep watching. Now I'm on season 4. I'm like, I might as well just catch up. Like,
fuck it.
What else do I have to do? I can do IV Pokemon training while I'm doing this or something.
To be fair, my dad and my sister watch it together. And my dad like binged watched the entire series like in a week.
That's rough. I got through season 2 in about like a week, but I can't imagine going through everything at once.
He was just like, well, I liked it, so I just watched it. I'm like, okay, Dad.
Does he have no tears left to cry?
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like Daredevil was the first show in a long time that I just sat down and I went, I'm watching this. And the only reason why I muscled through Carter as fast as I did was because I completely forgot that I needed to watch it for this. Yeah. And I'm like, whoops.
I mean, honestly, that's how because Agent Carter, I watched the first 2 episodes live because they were double apart. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I caught them all on demand after that. I think I watched the finale live. But after that, I was just like, I just don't have the same urgency. Like, even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is starting to become that way, but I just didn't have the same urgency to be like, I have to see this as soon as it's available. I'm like, I can wait until I have free time.
With Shield, it was kind of like right now they're in the build up phase, and they've built it up pretty well, and now we're starting to get payoff for this half of the season, and I'm really excited to see where things are to go. Like, what the fuck happened to Cal in that last episode? Like,
Oh yeah,
he ran off to kill some Hydra, then poof,
he just vanished.
he stabbed a wall to death. Maybe he's good at stabbing.
He's very good. We haven't even seen Mr. Hyde yet.
No, we have not. He's kind of mentioned him.
Yeah, we've getting teases for it. I don't know if you noticed. I'm sure you did. But when he pulls out that thing from the chest, there's like these green vials underneath the vials. Yep. So clearly they're setting up for it.
I half caught that because I was making dinner. Because fun fact, I had started watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I really can't watch it when my girlfriend's around because she doesn't like it at all. So I have to kind of catch it when I can. And I had started watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I was doing some work, and I was like 15 minutes to go, and then I had to stop watching. So I just caught it today, and I'm like watching it on my tablet while I'm making dinner. And I'm like, what's
going on here? Where'd Cal go?
Oh, okay. Because I stopped right when they teleported.
Okay.
So from the teleportation on, I watched today. And okay.
Fair enough.
Exactly.
Guess what happened, I guess.
Oh, no. He did jump because he jumped into the teleportation at the end.
He got into the teleportation with them. So but I'm just like, what does he do back in the sanctuary?
Yeah, that's gonna get awkward.
I'm just like, it's not like he has teleportation powers. He's kind of effed in the A.
Yeah, he's probably gonna get teleported away very soon. Yeah. But you know what? Let's quickly touch on DC for a quick second here before we get out of here.
Okay. It's a sweet trailer.
No, I can't even fake that.
I'll be as positive and optimistic as I can.
I like the Batman voice.
Yeah, that seems to be okay. I mean, we only really heard it in what's going to be the Dark Knight Returns suit with the armored thing. I hate that line though. That line, I don't know why it annoys me because he's like, "Will you bleed or do you bleed? You will." Like,
it's a Frank Miller line.
What annoys me is I'm like, you didn't let him answer the question, like. Because it's like the Bane line from Dark Knight Returns, where it's like, "Do you feel pain? You seem like a big guy. You can handle it. No, it'll be very painful. Yeah, you seem like a big guy. No, for you. Ooh. Like it doesn't work if Carcetti doesn't get a chance to respond to it. Littlefinger.
Oh.
You need like him to be like, "Do you bleed? No, I don't. You will," or something like that. Like that'd be a cooler line. I just feel it's weird. I'm like, you didn't even give him a chance to respond. You're a rude little piggy, Batman.
Also, that's really the only positive thing I can say about it. The suit didn't look bad. I hate Frank Miller, so I hate it by default. I'm sorry. It looks really terrible.
I just don't get what the plot is. Like, at this point, I still don't... Like, I get Batman versus Superman fight, but I don't get what the plot is. Like, I still don't get what they're really fighting about. I don't get how Lex Luthor really fits into this. Like, I can grasp the bearings of it, like, Lex Luthor is going to be saying that Superman can't be trusted because he's proven himself to be a danger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Batman's going to be the guy to take him down to prove to him that Earth can fight against him should he ever turn rogue or whatever like that. But I'm just like, I don't get what you're doing with Superman. Like, I don't get where he stands in all this. I feel like Superman just be like, guys, I tried to save you all. Look, it's not my fault Amy Adams came macking on me when we were over a bunch of corpses.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry that we made out in the middle of the 9/11 like illusion here are bad.
Yeah, like, all right, come on. But if Amy Adams was all up on you, you'd be making out on top of like corpses too.
I'd be like, hey, could we save this for a little bit? I mean, 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of, I guess it's uncomfortable, but romance strikes you when romance strikes you.
But let's not quip, because that's really bad.
Yeah, I mean, it was like one of those books. And the thing is, like, it's like the inverse of what I would expect Superman to be. Like, it just doesn't like I just don't get a character from him. I'm just like he's just this like you've made the most boring version of Superman possible. Where it's just I'm the big strong god,
I punch things.
and the sole reaction characters have to me is the fact that I'm so ungodly awesome. Like when you make Superman more of like I have this power and I have to do everything I can to help people. I feel like you make a more compelling character when it's just I'm big and strong and the rest of the world has to prove they can, make me bleed. It's like, all right, but this is gonna get boring real fast.
My big problem is that they're going down the God route, which is thanks. We needed this. Two, let's have more Jesus illusions with Superman. We needed that, right?
Oh my god, it's absurd how much they're just like he's a god. Like I get it. I don't need characters bowing and giant statues of him with false god written on it. It's just I want to be optimistic towards it because I'm like I didn't hate Man of Steel.
I did.
I hated it more after I thought about it. Like leaving the theater, I was like that was an okay movie. But
we had the same reaction. We're like that was okay. Then like a couple of days later, you're like I want to stab that movie.
You're like wait a minute. Why didn't he just save his dad?
Why didn't he just,
Why didn't he just super speed out and grab him? Why is Papa Kent telling Clark Kent to let children die?
Why is he calling him a god?
Why did we spend the first 20 minutes of this movie watching Russell Crowe swim through a baby farm?
Why did like CGI Russell Crowe help him stop the bad guy in the end? Why did he wait until the bad guy came to him and then get murdered? Deleted, sorry.
Yeah. But at the time, I was like, oh man, they punched a missile at one point. That was pretty cool.
Why did he fight an IHOP?
Why? So many people died.
Why did all these people just randomly die? Because he had to throw them into a gas station that had people in it.
Yeah, Superman, you're not the best at your job.
Why? Another big why in Man of Steel. Why do they have to immediately let everybody know that he's an alien?
I don't know why they have to like hide it so much, like to like the point he's just like, yeah, you can let kids die, Clark. Nobody can know you.
No. What I mean is plot wise. Letting the world know he's an alien.
Oh, I don't know.
That just because the thing is that he is supposed to be like the world protector. Immediately ostracizing the character as the alien is such the wrong message to send about Man of Steel, about Superman.
And he doesn't like retract it by the end. He still kind of sets himself up to be like, "Hey, I know you're watching me. I saw those Wayne Enterprises satellites, so just remember, I'm on your side." But like, it's still like this weird, like passive aggressive kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's the problem with saying that he's the alien. Is that once you establish that Superman is an alien, is that you set this whole what they're doing with Batman vs Superman in motion. They could have done it a much better way. And from some of the complaints that I had about Man of Steel, they're addressing in this movie. Like they specifically mentioned that one of the rise of power that Lex has is because of the amount of destruction that Superman caused. And the cause of all this stuff, and it's like that's neat and all, but the thing is that if this was your plan all along to set these movies up, there's a better way of doing it, not going down the road of demonizing one of your like lawful good characters, one of the damn near lawful good characters that you have.
And like the thing, and it's what the comparison I always hear when like people kind of compare DC and Marvel is they're like, look, Marvel has heroes that are humans. They're like they're more about how they are as people than they are as necessarily kind of superheroes. But DC has superheroes. Like their characters are just heroes. Like they're that larger than life aspect. So that's why people kind of like them. So it's weird to me that like Batman versus Superman is like almost setting up to like break that because you're just like he's not really being a superhero in this. Like he doesn't have that figure. Like I can't like this Justice League to me does not seem like something that if it existed like in our universe, I'd be comfortable with them like protecting us. I'd be like, I don't trust a lot of these guys.
Yeah, it's almost like they're setting up Injustice.
Yeah, I was like, that's it. It's the Injustice, the series. You're just like, yeah, I mean, it works as like a storyline as an alternative, but like
in a terrible fighting game. Well, storyline wise, terrible. I think that there's lots wrong with the Justice plotline, but continue.
Yeah, but it's just like as the main movie like universe, I don't feel comfortable with a lot of these people. This Batman guy seems really angry, and Superman's mean.
And that's the thing. In like Injustice Gods Among Us, Superman's the villain.
Yeah, like that's that they're characterizing him the same way they did in that for a character who's supposed to be the dark asshole version of what the real character's supposed to be.
And the real Superman goes to him and goes like, "What the fuck, dude?
What are you doing?"
And that game has one really good plot point, because the whole reason that Superman goes dark in Injustice is because the fact that the Joker pretty much makes Clark kill Lois while she's pregnant. They even go down that road.
One man red weddings her.
Pretty much. They like trick Clark into making him think that she's Doomsday. So he literally beats the shit out of her.
Oh God.
And when Joker's being interrogated and like Batman's trying to work it, like Soups just bursts in, like just breaks his neck and just done. And it's like, okay, I can kind of see that. And there's a great part later on in the game where the regular Superman tells it, like they're talking, and the bad Superman goes, "What would you have done in my situation? What would you have done if the love of your life was dead because of that man?" And it's like, oh, okay, you're making me uncomfortable, game.
Yeah, like, oh God, what do I say?
It was pretty funny that both Batman were pretty much the same. It was actually kind of hilarious that they're just like, yeah, we're Batman.
I will occasionally not pay parking tickets, so I'm evil Batman.
No, he's like one of the good guys. He's like one of the only good guys left is Batman, and the leader of the Resistance is Harley.
The good Resistance?
Yes.
Good for you, girl.
Exactly, and it's really funny when Batman's talking with her. It's like, you've made some leaps and strides. Don't, because Joker comes back with Batman to this universe. It's like, don't let this guy fucking for you. You've been doing pretty good.
Stay away from him.
And it is a great part where he tries to turn her some more. She just punches him in the face. She's like, I moved on. But like that is like, you don't make Superman grim dark. It doesn't fucking work.
It just seems pointless. Like, why would I want to watch that?
And I stand by my tweet that I said about Batman Superman, which is one of the major problems that I had with Man of Steel was that it was humorless. It was a very dark and gritty movie. That it didn't need to be. Put some fucking levity into that. You need that when you're having fucking cities exploding. You need that from time to time. Not afterwards when they're standing in the ruins making quips about it's all down after the first kiss.
That's such a stupid line to begin with, but just like such a weird place to be like, tee
relationships.
But it's because it's the way you always hear it is people are like, well, no, that's what they're doing to set themselves apart from Marvel, is they're not going to be all about humor and wackiness. I'm like, you don't have to be all about humor and wackiness. I mean, even you could argue the Marvel movies,
they're not
aren't even. But it's just the fact of like, why don't you just not make things seem so miserable and sad all the time?
Exactly. You don't need to make Clark brooding.
Like, it worked for Batman because it's kind of Batman's tone to a certain extent.
My parents are dead.
Yeah, you could do Batman differently than that, but it's still like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of his wheelhouse, but not with the whole everybody is Batman thing.
Exactly. And the thing I think is the funniest thing, like back to what I had said, which was, so you're going to inject levity by adding Batman. Yeah, that's going to work.
Like, like the thing I keep thinking of is the Wonder Woman movie when it comes out. I'm like, how do you do this now? Because Thor proved you can make that kind of character work. Like, it's tied heavily in ancient, mythology, and it's just very like almost inhuman, like not inhuman, but just almost like godlike figure who has no understanding of our culture. But Thor did it right because they were like, yeah, like let's put a fish out of water and he's throwing cups in the ground. You're like, another, and let's make this guy goofy. But I'm like, if you just make Wonder Woman like grimdark and all that, you're just gonna make another like BC sword and board series that people just aren't going to really care that much about.
Yeah, and also don't forget that she's going to be in Batman Superman and then Justice League and then her movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I thought her movie is before Justice League.
Is it before Justice League? Then never mind. I'm sorry.
I think it is. Don't 100% quote me. I feel like Batman vs Superman comes out next year, and I feel like Wonder Woman comes out maybe that summer. I feel like it's before Justice League. Let me look it up.
Okay, but my problem is like I can't imagine Gal Gadot doing comedy.
Yeah, I don't know how that one would exactly work out.
Nope, 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 nope. I am so not on board with DC, and it makes me sad because there's some DC properties that I really like. I have.
Yep, Wonder Woman comes out in June 2015, June 25th, 2017, and then Justice League comes out November of that year.
Okay. Oh man, Justice League's coming out in November. Ooh, that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, they're kind of trying to, I guess, do what Marvel did by being like, we're gonna make May our thing, where Justice or DC is like, we're gonna make November a big movie month thing.
Wait, what year is Justice League?
Justice League's 2017.
2017 November. Hold on one quick second here because I gotta take a look at this and see what is coming out for then. I don't know. That looks like Doctor Strange territory, doesn't it? No, Doctor Strange is 2016, right?
Yeah, what it's gonna actually be is I think that's gonna be Thor will be coming out around that time. Thor Ragnarok, because Spider-Man is gonna be moving into where Thor was, so Thor gets where Black Panther was.
That's weird.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see what happens with that. I mean, the dates could change, but that's what it is right now. Hey, if Batman vs Superman doesn't work out, we may see a lot of these dates start disappearing.
Yeah.
Some are like, maybe let's not pencil in a Cyborg movie.
Yeah. DC threw out a lot of dates on an unknown property. Like, okay, let's be honest. Batman Superman is not going to tank.
No, it would have to be monumentally awful to tank.
It would literally have to be the worst movie that they've ever made.
Yeah.
It would have to be Catwoman bad for that series to tank. But what could happen is that it's not going to tank, but the biggest problem that DC is going to have is that if Batman Superman is not good, it's going to really hurt Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's going to be essentially the same thing that happened with Sony and Spider-Man, where like Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't do bad. It just didn't do what they needed it to do, and it hurts every future plan they put into place because suddenly people don't really sound like they care about a Sinister
They
Six
don't want an Aunt May movie. Who would have guessed?
A shocker. People weren't excited about that.
I know, but what I mean to that is that this is one of those times where we're finally going to get a female-driven superhero movie. We haven't gotten that yet, which is sad and depressing. And it's very long conversations I've had about this with my girlfriend about that.
Another reason I'm excited for Jessica Jones. We're actually going to get a female-led superhero series very soon.
I am way more happy with Captain Marvel because I know that that's going to be handled much better.
They've already announced the writers for that too. Nicole Perlman from who wrote the original Guardians of the Galaxy script.
I know.
Don't tie yourself too much to that notion because it was heavily rewritten by James Gunn, but still, it kind of shows that she's someone who has,
she had most of the bones of her script was still in Guardians,
and they went forward with a Guardians of the Galaxy movie based off her script, so that kind of has a pretty telling atmosphere to it.
Exactly, and to be honest, when you bring in someone like James Gunn, you want him to put his own stamp on it, which he did.
Yeah, and there's another person in for writing. I forget her name right now, but I mean, that's a good thing right there to have those, like, have a writing team already for it.
And they said they're also going to try to find a female director too.
That'd be great. I heard Angelina Jolie's name thrown out once. I don't know if
that's a weird one.
I don't know if I'd be as crazy excited about that, but yeah, I mean, I think it would be very cool.
I'm trying to remember who did Punisher Warzone was directed by a woman. I think it's like Leah Alexander. I think is her name. I can't remember the director's name off the top of my head, but yeah, she did, and I didn't even know that until I heard the commentary. And she's like, "I'm the director of this movie," and I'm like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is rad." And all she did for most of the commentaries talk about colors, which is really cool. But yeah, I think Marvel said that they're looking for someone, a woman to direct it if they can, because they would like for that to be handled well.
Yeah, they need to have Black Panther and Captain Marvel come out as successes. They can't let it just be like that's the stereotype that will forever go down with those minority heroes. Like, you can't have a black hero or a woman hero. Like, it just go back to, big strong white guys for the roles. Like, no, we need to show that these characters can be awesome, because you know what's going to happen? We're going to throw fucking Kamala Khan into the Inhumans movie because goddamn it, she's awesome.
And let's be honest, if anyone could take over for the Avengers once this entire cast no longer does these movies, because that's going to happen, um, Captain Marvel's a very
Oh, they need Danvers is going to become their Superman. She's essentially the Marvel version of Superman, just not as broken. Where it's
and
just like
yeah.
she has super strength, she flies, she's got all these cool powers. Like that's going to be their new powerhouse.
And she's a leader.
Yes, she's like if you made Cap and combined him with someone with actual powers.
Yes, but that's also, but to be fair, that's what makes Cap great, is that he's so awesome without powers.
Yeah, but it's just
to a certain extent.
Yeah,
he still has some powers.
He did flip a bike in that one scene.
Exactly. Ooh, it slipped. But no, I'm really pumped about that. And I heard you typing. What were you looking up?
No, I was just checking something else here on the movies, but I can't find a current movie list just because I don't see one that's added for the fact that Spider-Man's been added to things.
Yeah, and we still don't know much about Spider-Man either. We don't know what wrinkles that's going to throw into the mix. I mean, it's already made a giant shockwave happen, and then hilariously Sony announces another Spider-Man series at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, like, Sony still hasn't said, like, we're not going to do a Sinister Six movie.
But it's going to be animated now.
Yeah, like, maybe we'll still put Paul Giamatti in that crazy fucking accent.
And we haven't even talked about Fantastic Four.
Oh, God. Let's wait for that one until it gets a little bit closer. Maybe more trailers will come out to improve my perception of that.
I will say one thing about that before we get out of here, which is, why'd you have to make it alternate dimensions? What the fuck?
I think I tweeted something. I was like, it's been so long since like the Marvel movies have kind of like reinvented what we know of the superhero movies. Like since like 2007, it's like a completely different perception of what superhero movies can be now. And the Fantastic Four movie is just going back on all of that and just being like, let's just do it like it's the same fucking thing as everything else.
And it's an origin story.
Yeah, like origin story. They're fighting some like anonymous, like it's just gonna be in this giant wasteland battlefield. It's like, like just throw out a couple cheesy jokes for things. Like
the chair gag. But then it's like, here's some jokes, and it's dead serious.
Yeah.
And then alternate dimensions where they just completely fuck up everything again. But yeah, we'll get into that much more later, because one last major positive thing that we will both agree on about Daredevil, isn't it great that it didn't start with his origin?
It was fantastically done. You get like a couple quick second thing of the actual accident, then you move into a story, and they tell the rest of it through flashbacks that are expertly done.
We get one episode that's dedicated about his training.
Yeah.
And that's halfway through.
Yeah, and even then, that episode has other, like, it's an episode about his training that's developing into what's going to be a much larger plot later down the line.
Exactly, but it was one of those things that's like, at that point, you're kind of like, I kind of want to know how this happened. It goes, here you go.
And I'm like, he's really good for being blind. How's that happen? Yeah, if that's what Marvel means when they're like, no more origin stories, I'm 100% behind it, because I do think that was a great way. Let's just jump right into Daredevil. Let's see him saving people. Let's see him being like this ass kicker. Let's not spend time with Kid Matt. Let's jump to him when we need to.
Exactly, and that was a very smart move. And then we see everything else going like origin stories, and it's like, kill me.
Well, Batman vs. Superman isn't going to be an origin story. It's going to be 7 origin stories.
It's going to be fucking 7 of them.
I wish I was lying with that, but it's really not.
Probably not. It's going to be like, all of a sudden, when Batman punches Superman, like 8 people just get powers.
Yeah, it's just like he punches Superman really hard. That crushes Vic Stone, gives him his power. It knocks a Green Lantern ring onto Hal Jordan's finger. It causes the accident, like the chemicals to spill over to create Flash. Fucking lightning bolt hits Billy fucking Batson. Perry makes him Shazam.
And then all of a sudden, like, what ends up happening is that the Superman punches him back. Then all of a sudden, a portal just opens, and then just Wonder Woman falls out of it.
She's just like, "Where did I come from? Don't worry, we'll explain you next movie."
And then the movie just ends.
Yeah, credits. Like that's the last line. We'll get to you next movie. Clap.
And everyone's like,
"Yeah."
I think that was good.
I'm not sure.
Why was that 3 hours?
Felt like you could have trimmed a little bit of that down.
Yeah. Well, that's been a lot of words about things.
Yes. Did it feel good to be back?
It did. It felt good to actually talk about this stuff with somebody because I've literally been able to talk to nobody about Daredevil.
Like, you just be like, hey, hon, Daredevil was shut up.
I'm like, this is how it went. It's like, there's this really cool episode about this. She's like, uh-huh. I'm like, there's this really cool shot at the end of episode 2. She's like, that's neat. I'm like, here's a GIF of it. She's like, oh, that looks kind of interesting. I'd like to use a yellow. I was like, you want to watch it? No.
Yeah, no.
Here's a hilarious picture of Murdoch with a balloon. And she's like, why would you give a blind person a balloon?
I'm like, well, that's the fun of it. It's a joke in...
Oh. But
I do love, though, that the Kingpin table flip is now going to be like the go-to table flip gif.
It is. It is the funniest things ever. So I'm just like, Brrr! The only person who's better at table flips is Prowl from Transformers because he flips tables like every issue. It's fucking hilarious. He just gets bad and flips a table. So giant robots flipping tables. It's amazing. Well, that's been it for this week. We have so many things to talk about in the future, so who knows, we may come back sooner rather than later. It's like there's a movie coming out next week.
Something big's supposed to happen. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
maybe we'll find out who the director for Inhumans is.
Maybe we will. It's Vin Diesel.
Whoa. I'm like, I'm pretty excited, but I don't know why.
I'll just go for it. It's James Gunn and Vin Diesel.
Oh my god, now you have all my money.
But yeah, so we'll be back. We will be back very, very soon, like in a week or so, to talk about Avengers: Age of Ultron, which we may split it into 2 episodes, make it a non-spoiler and one filled with spoilers, so we could talk about it in all its glory. Because this is going to change a lot of things. Because the biggest thing the Age of Ultron is going to do is going to set the tone for like the next 5 movies.
Yeah, this. I mean, the Ant-Man's the official end, but this is the culmination of Phase 2.
Yes, Ant-Man may change some things. We don't know because Ant-Man takes place after Ultron, timeline-wise. Takes place, I think they said 2 months after Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. It's almost like it takes place. It's almost like it releases that much time after the movie.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So we don't know what's going to end up happening with Age of Ultron. I mean, I've heard some things, and I've somehow dodged major spoilers. Like, I got really close to one.
I've had one thing spoiled for me. I was a big stupid idiot, and someone's like, leaked page of casting or call-in sheet. I clicked the image, and I actually no, I didn't click the image. I avoided it. I went to another discussion page though, and someone mentioned it. What was in it in their comment, and I was like, God damn it!
It's like how I got the post-credit scene of Avengers: Age of Ultron, the original Avengers, the Thanos fucking one spoiled to me. Like the last page I looked at before I went to the theater.
It was like, oh, stay around for Thanos. She's like, mother.
Yeah, it was literally that. And it was a non-spoiled article. It's like, oh, in the mid-credit scene is Thanos. And I'm like,
you assholes.
Motherfuckers. But that's going to do it for us this week, this episode. This was episode 21, in fact.
Oh. Excellent. 21's a good number. It's a lucky number.
It is. And you know what the nice thing is we are no longer constrained by time and format because we're on YouTube now.
Yes, which is where the true powerhouses rely. You know, they lay here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just cheap. Let's be honest. Because the amount of content that we had put out was enough that I actually had to spend a decent amount of month on this show, and I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, let's just let's throw this up on YouTube.
We'll just throw it up on YouTube, and
you kids know how to download.
Yeah, it's like it exists. I don't care. Just watch it once on there, and I'm happy. That's all you need to do.
That's all you need to do. I mean, you're probably gonna get us a view just trying to download it anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm not going to throw mid-roll ads into there. I'm not an asshole. I mean, if a lot of people start watching it, maybe I will because I'm an asshole. But yeah, so we'll see you guys back very soon for Avengers: Age of Ultron. And of course, this is available on the page that you're currently listening it on because there's no place else for you to hear it. I don't know where I was going with that, but for those of you who do not follow me, I am Brandon Alsonos Fragger. I am at Axnollous, AXNOLLOUSE on Twitter. I talk a decent amount. I've cut back.
You have. I've noticed that. I
In a
thought you
good way.
died for a little bit. I
In
thought
a
a
good
ghost
way.
took over you. Yes.
Because, well, you know,
Responsible way.
I did. I cut back on my Twitter a lot because I saw that I was hemorrhaging followers because I talk a lot. And when you're trying to make relationships with developers out there so that you can start making content, when you tweet like 16 fucking times an hour, they don't tend to follow you for long.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, well, I actually lost some very big ones. Like I lost the community bench from 343. as a follower because of that. So I'm just like, yeah, I need to come back. So there you go. I tweet occasionally. I say some dumb things, and mine is I love that my picture is one of my girlfriends. Like, you need to wear this. This needs to be your avatar. I'm like, okay, it is Optimus Prime as a judge with a microphone. Go. And I'm like, okay, I'm in.
I guess I didn't notice it. I'll have to.
It is. He is King. He is Judge Prime, and he has a crown on, and he has a microphone because he's currently he's a judge in a trial.
Interesting. I clearly am behind on my Transformers goings-ons.
Mm-hmm. You are.
Yeah. Well, I can't be ahead on everything.
No, you can't be on the incredibly well written and inclusionary run of Transformers that's currently happening. That's the best thing about it.
Yeah. I'll let you enjoy it for me.
I will.
Thank you.
No problem. You should say your goodbyes now.
Oh, okay. I'm Chris. You can find me on Twitter at RolloT if you want to. I also do a podcast on manga called Weekly Manga Recap. You can check out my Twitch page, twitch.tv/RolloT, every Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. There you go.
And this will be coming out at points in time in the future.
Yes. Just subscribe to the channel. That way you'll know when it comes out. It'll pop up on your YouTube. That's actually, from what I understand, that's the actual purpose of a subscription.
Exactly. And it's not like it's on my personal channel where all my other shit's going to pop up on your feed too. Just ignore it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Nobody watches it anyways. So that is going to do it for us this time. I'm very happy to be back and talking about Marvel things for, dear God, 2 hours. I feel like you have to go, and I feel like I have to go too.
Yeah, I feel like we've exhausted this.
I'm exhausted.
We're exhausted. You're exhausted. The metaphorical audience, YouTube's exhausted. Just stop doing it, guys. We'll catch you next week.
Okay. See you guys next time.
Bye.